Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you're doing well. I'm doing pretty well today. I got a pretty quick tutorial for you on CCIP bombing, which is continuously computed impact point bombing in the F-16 with unguided ordnance. So essentially, this is dive bombing. What it will do is it'll give you a pipper with a steering cue, vertical steering cue, and you're going to put that pipper on the target. I'll explain in more detail, obviously, once we're in the jet, but it will continuously compute where the bombs are going to land, hence the name, continuously computed impact point. And then once you get that pipper on the target, you're going to press the weapon release, and then you'll drop your bombs and they'll hit that target. So we got a bunch of different types of bombs that we can do this with. So I'm going to be using Mark 82s, which are 500-pound unguided bombs. We also have CBU 87s and CBU 97s, which are a couple different types of cluster bombs. We have Mark 82 air balloons and snake eyes, which are types of high drag bombs. So the snake eyes have fins that will come out to slow it down. And we have the air balloons, which has kind of like a little parachute or a balloon that will come out of the back of the bomb in order to slow it down. These tend to be most useful if you're doing level bombing at low altitude. So sometimes I'll use these if I'm trying to hit, like, I don't know, a convoy or something like that, and I want to come in at like 500 feet or so above the ground. If I used regular slick bombs, they would hit the ground too fast and they would blow me up too. So you use the high drag bombs, and then you can do that low attack, and they'll be slowed down enough that you'll be gone by the time they actually hit the target, and then you won't end up damaging yourself or blowing yourself up. We also have Mark 84s, which are 2,000-pound bombs, and we have the air balloons as well for these, which essentially function the same as the Mark 82 air balloons. They're just bigger. Sometimes I'll use those. I have used them in the past if I'm doing a low ingress and then I want to like pop up and then roll in on the target and drop them. And just to make sure that I have enough time to turn away before the bombs impact, I'll use those so that they slow them down for the same reason that I mentioned before with the high drag Mark 82s. That's about it for the different types that we have. So I'm going to go back to the triple ejector rack with our 3 Mark 82s. We also have a few different types of fuses, tail fuses and nose fuses, and airburst fuses like this, which will make them explode above the ground. That can be useful if you have a relatively large area of soft targets that you want to hit, but we're just going to use the mechanical fuse today. So anyway, I will be right back once we are actually in the air. Okay, so here we are in the jet, and we're going to first of all go to air-to-ground mode, press that ICP override button here, go to air-to-ground mode, and now we got a bunch of symbology. On our right MFD, we have our SMIS page pulled up, and on our HUD, we have this steering cue and the pipper. So, right here, we have the type of weapon that we have. It says ready. It will just do that because these don't need to align or anything because they're just dumb bombs. We have a number of different profiles that we have set by default. It just has to do with release intervals and things like that. Single, pair, spacing, and ripple like pulses. So I like to set this to pairs. I'm going to drop 2 bombs at a time, so it'll drop one from the right pylon and one from the left. Actually, you know what? I'm going to set this to single first. I'm going to do 2 release pulses, and I'm going to set the spacing at 100 feet. So now what we're going to do is, instead of just flying to put the pipper on the target, we're going to fly so that we put the steering cue in line with our target, and then we're going to fly in a dive and wait until that pipper gets onto the target, and then we're going to press and hold our weapon release. So you want to make sure that you have your master arm on. And generally speaking, what I like to do, and I believe what is done, is to line up offset from the target, and then we're going to place whatever our target is a bit off of the sill of the canopy here. Now, the higher up it is above it, the more shallow your dive is, and the closer it is to that, the steeper your dive will be. So that depends essentially on your altitude and your distance from the target. So if we wanted to do a really steep, like 45 to 60 degree dive, we could get pretty close to it, reasonably high altitude, and so that it's just like under the sill. Or if we wanted to do a really shallow dive, we could go for, I don't know, maybe this one here, because it's farther away, so we'd end up being in a pretty shallow dive. What I want to try and do is go for this one right on the corner there. So I'm going to just fly over here. Wait till it's right kind of in the crux there between the eyebrow. And this will be a sort of shallow dive. Now we're going to roll in. I like to go idle and put my speed brakes out to control my speed. Line the steering cue up. And pickle, and CO2 bombs just went. Now we're gonna pull off. Wait for those to impact. There, perfect. That second one landed exactly where I was aiming. Alright, now I'm gonna just set this back to 1 ripple pulse, and we're gonna do a pair this time. Make sure you retract your speed brakes after you release the bombs so that you're able, and I like to go full burner or at least a mil power to make sure that I can pull up out of there. Let's climb up here a little bit. Now let's do a more shallow dive, so I'm going to go for that one right at the end. Same thing. Go idle. Oh, I suppose this isn't that much more shallow. First one is about 25 degrees. This is about 20. Wait. And pickle. That's 2 bombs gone. And those are right exactly on target. So this is very accurate. You just have to make sure you get the pipper on the target. And just keep flying straight, and they will land right where you want them to. Now let's do one more, do release pulses 2, and we'll set this to a spacing of, we'll just do another one with 100 feet. We'll try and get a steep dive this time. Get a little more altitude. I'm gonna try and go for this one right here. I want to get some altitude. Get close to it. Because we're still a few miles away from it. Trouble is doing them really steep like this is that you can't always see it. Sometimes you have to kind of fly a little bit offset like this. You can see it, and now we'll roll in. This one I definitely want to be pretty slow on, so we'll go idle. Tricky thing is just getting used to the turn. And pickle. 2 bombs gone. Back to Cat 1. And there we go. Perfect hits. So the hardest thing about this really is getting used to the aircraft and how it turns so that you can judge your turns and know how to line the steering cue up as best you can, and then making those so you don't have to make massive adjustments, so you have as much time to hold it stable before you release the bombs. But once you get the hang of that, then this is a really fun method to do. I kind of like doing unguided stuff more than guided ordnance just because I have to actually fly it. Like doing Mavericks or doing GBU-12s especially, or JDAMs, which I like doing, but it's just too easy sometimes because you just end up, if you're just trying to, if you have, you know, a bunch of targets that are on the ground that to pick from, you're just flying, orbiting around and just flying level and dropping them and lasing them when they hit exactly. So this requires a little bit more skill to do that, but it's a little more rewarding when you actually end up hitting the targets. But anyway, this was just super straightforward tutorial how to get the bombs onto the targets. Hopefully this was helpful. If you want to consider liking, subscribing, joining the Discord, hitting a super thanks, that would be greatly appreciated. But anyway, have a good one, and I hope that I will see you in the next video.